Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. Today we are going to keep talking about an interesting topic that spun off from the US-China trade war. Recently, there have been a lot of signs suggesting that the US and China have already started secret negotiations. What's really interesting is, before the South Korean media caught Chinese officials entering the US Treasury building, China kept denying there were any meetings. Meanwhile, Trump had been loudly claiming that the talks had already started a long time ago. These completely opposite narratives quickly stirred up debate online. Who is actually lying? But honestly, for those who understand China, the answer is obvious. The real reason why China refuses to admit to the negotiations comes down to one thing: saving face. Now, face culture isn't unique to China. Plenty of countries care about their image, but China is the only country that puts face above everything else. Take this trade war as an example. When it first broke out, China publicly declared, "Sure, we can talk, but only if the US first removes all the additional tariffs." No tariffs removed, no talks. The problem is, there's no way the US would accept that. The whole point of raising tariffs was to pressure China into negotiation. So deep down, both sides know that dragging things out isn't helping anyone. Secret talks were bound to happen sooner or later. But for China to publicly admit they are negotiating without getting any concessions from the US, that's almost impossible, unless one of these scenarios happens. First, the US repeatedly and humbly asks China to negotiate. There's an old Chinese saying, once might pass, twice might pass, but not 3 times. If the US lower its posture enough times, China might take the opportunity to save face and agree. Second, major players like the EU or Japan step in and call for negotiations. Then China can frame itself as the victim, leading the charge against unfair tariffs, and enter talks with its dignity intact. Third, the two sides reach a secret deal that China is happy with, and the US agrees to put on a show. For example, temporarily dropping tariffs to 0, letting China announce talks are happening, and then adjusting the tariffs back up after a week based on a real agreement. Whatever the method, it has to protect China's face. And you know what? Trump totally gets it. He knows leaders like Xi Jinping, authoritarian leaders, care about face more than anything. That's why you will notice Trump always publicly emphasizes his good friendship with the leaders like Xi, Putin, and Kim Jong-un. But you will never hear him call the leaders of democratic countries his personal friends. Why? Because dictators, with their absolute power, can make decisions purely to protect their personal pride, even at the cost of their nation's interests. Meanwhile, democratic leaders are more like employees. They have to answer to public opinion and elections. They don't need, and frankly cannot afford, to base decisions on personal friendships. Speaking of face culture, it's not just about politics. It's deeply woven into every part of Chinese society. I mentioned this before when talking about financial reports from platforms like Red Notes. Many Chinese people exaggerate their lifestyle in front of foreigners because losing face for China feels unbearable. And even among themselves, Chinese people care a lot about appearances. Lu Xun, one of China's most famous writers, once said, Faith is the spiritual backbone of all Chinese people. A lot of people, honestly, live for how others see them. In the social media era, this has only gotten worse. You will see people posting glamorous, luxurious lifestyles on their moments or Instagram, but behind the scenes, many are struggling just to get by. In 2020, there was a viral article that exposed this whole fake luxury industry. Socialites showing off expensive cars and watches, all rented. Luxury afternoon teas at five-star hotels, group bought by dozens of people who take turns posing for photos. It gets even crazier. Some people started bragging online that they were invited to United Nations events, or took photos with foreign leaders. But dig a deeper, and you will find out it's all staged. $50 for a quick photo, sometimes costing thousands through shading middlemen because of language barriers. If you really think about it, why do Chinese people care so much about faith? Part of it comes from growing up in a collectivist culture. In the West, personal feelings matter most. As long as you're happy with yourself, it doesn't really matter what others think. But in China, it's all about a group. And within the group, you need to have something to show. Otherwise, you risk being excluded or looked down on. That's why so many people create fake versions of their lives, just to stay socially acceptable. Sometimes, they even feel obligated to protect other people's faith too. In Chinese culture, making someone else lose face is considered extremely rude. Even if you're not wrong, you would still get blamed for being immature or lacking social skills. And that's also why a lot of Chinese people are willing to suffer in their personal lives as long as their country looks strong and powerful on the world stage. Even if their living standards drop, they feel proud if China stands tall internationally. On the flip side, if China were to bow its head to foreign powers, even if it meant better lives for ordinary people, many would still feel deeply humiliated. It sounds crazy, right? But this is one of those things Westerners often find impossible to fully understand. If you enjoy this content, don't forget to like, comment, and share. See you next time.